everybody. Don't you think it's interesting in times like this, times of crisis, or when you have moments where there's an emergency that comes up, it really helps remind us of what's really important in life and what's maybe not so important in life. And when these crises come up, I know in my life, I have all these things to do, and all of a sudden I realize, wow, something huge came up, so I could set all those things aside. It really just can remind us of what's important and what's not. Let me tell you a story. There was a guy, older man, and he was driving three older ladies to a place that they needed to be. And as he's driving down the road, he's driving 25 miles an hour, and a police officer comes up behind him. The police officer pulls him over, and the old man opens the window and he says, "What's wrong, officer?" And the officer says, "Well, do you realize you're only going 25 miles an hour? What's wrong that you're only going 25 miles an hour?" And the gentleman says, "Well, what do you mean what's wrong? That's the speed limit. There's signs all along this road that say 25. And the officer says, No. That's the route you're on, not the speed limit. The speed limit's 55. And he says, I didn't realize, okay, I got it now. And the officer looks in the back, and there's the three ladies, and they're just sitting back there with that look like white as a ghost, just looking like they're going to be sick as can be. And he says to the man, he says, "Well, what's wrong with the passengers in your car?" And he says, "I think I know what it is." He said, "Last route I was on was Route 150. Now, listen, here's the truth. That story has absolutely nothing to do with anything I'm going to talk to you about. Nothing to do with it. But I kind of come to realize something. People just need something to laugh about right now. Sometimes we want things that happen in our life that just take our mind off of things. And right now, that might be more important than having these long sessions on how we should be handling the coronavirus and what we should be doing, how we should be reacting to it. Sometimes what's really important is just something like laughing. And I know as we've gone through and we've done some studies, and right now I've encouraged you to read the book of 1 Corinthians in chapter 2. And it talks about the Holy Spirit and His effect on our lives. And I want to kind of go through that second chapter with you this week. But I want you to note that the chapter starts out not really talking about the importance of the Holy Spirit like we dwelled on Sunday a little bit, but rather with Paul's approach to each town, or specifically this town that he went into. Now, if you don't know much about this guy by the name of Paul, wrote a lot of books in the New Testament, if you don't know much about him, he was trained by actually one of the greatest and finest teachers of his day. So Paul was a very, very intelligent guy, and he could argue with the best of the best, and he could use just huge words that were impressive, and he could speak with far greater eloquence probably than most people would be able to speak with. So Paul was a dynamic guy and had the capabilities to have a wow factor to him. But he recognized that there was something far more important that he needed to do in each town than to get everyone to look at him and say, "Wow, that Paul, he must be an important dude because his words are so great. I don't even understand what he's talking about. So he must be an amazing person." And that's not what Paul wanted to be important. So I want to take a look here at the beginning of 1 Corinthians chapter 2. And it says this in verses 1 to 4, partway through 4. It says, "And so it was with me," Paul says, "brothers and sisters, when I came to you, I didn't come with eloquence or human wisdom, as I proclaimed to you the testimony about God. For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you, except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. I came to you in weakness, with great fear and trembling. My message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words." So that was his approach. He came to them in weakness, and he came to them without using this eloquence that he certainly was capable of. Why? Why was it more important that he would approach them like that? Well, the answer comes afterwards. Again, his message was not with persuasive words, verse 4, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but instead on God's power. What could be more important than looking smart and drawing attention to yourself? Is there really anything more important than people looking at you and going, wow, you're a genius? What could be more important than that? Well, here's the answer. People coming to God is far more important than what I look at or what you look like. People coming to God and finding out about His wisdom and about His power. And man, do people need to know about God's wisdom and God's power today, or what? Do people need to rely on that today? You and me, we need to rely on that today. James chapter 4 and verse 10 says these words, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. I mean, who do you really want to lift you up? The crazy relatives on the other side of your Instagram post that always give you a thumbs up anyhow? Are they the ones that you want to lift you up and make you feel great and important? Are they the ones that you want lifting you up? Or do you want the God of all wisdom and all power to lift you up? So the next time that you send a text or you make a post, I want you to ask yourself this: am I doing this to make myself look good, or am I sneakily trying to help others rely on God's wisdom and God's power? I think we want to point others to God's wisdom and God's power. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow.